how good this next gentleman is. But I think you're all bored by me by now. I don't do an act every day, but he is a great person. I'm gonna vote for him. And I hope that you vote for him come Tuesday. So then in September and November, we work with him very closely, and we elect him as our new governor for the state of New Jersey. It is my honor to introduce you, Jack Ciattarelli.
Good seeing you all, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me on this Sunday afternoon, early evening. I think this is the 15th town hall that we've done leading up to the election. The polls will close in exactly 50 hours. 50 hours. And in 54 hours, I think maybe 52 or 53 hours, we'll know the results. And I've had a blast. Today is not only the 23-year anniversary of my wedding. But it's also exactly the 8-month anniversary of when I declared for governor. I declared October 4th of last year. I've been up and down the state 7 days a week and twice on Sunday since, 18-hour days. Call me crazy. I'm having a blast. I'm having a blast. It's a very energizing, exhilarating experience. When I say I'm having a blast, don't get me wrong, I'm in it to win it. I'm in it to win it. And I feel confident that we're going to achieve our goal. But it's been a fantastic experience going up and down the state and meeting Republicans all throughout the state, kind of selling why I think that I can lead the Republican Party to victory come November. I declared for governor for a couple different reasons. Before I get to that, I just want to tell you, this experience is extremely hard. It really is, but it should be. It's the governorship. It shouldn't be easy. And by the way, if it was easy, Joe Piscopo would be your governor. But I declared for governor for a couple of different reasons. One, New Jersey's broken, and I have some specific ideas on how to fix it, and I'm going to share that with you tonight. Second reason I declared for governor is because I went to the state legislature 5 years ago, the assembly, to fix our school funding formula, to lower property taxes, to fix the economy, to change school funding, to fix the tax code, to downsize the size of government, and I just have not been able to do that in my 5+ years in the legislature. The fact of the matter is we've lost seats. In the last 7 years of Christie Guadagno, we've lost seats in the legislature. Bergen County lost its executive, did it not? Its county executive. We've lost important freeholder boards and mayoralships. And so I'm very, very concerned about the state of New Jersey. I'm also concerned about our Republican Party. I'm the only gubernatorial candidate to put out actually a contract with New Jersey Republicans on how to rebuild the Republican Party. That's not because necessarily I'm a hyper-partisan. I'm a proud Republican. But if you believe in the democracy, you must also believe in the two-party system. The two-party system only works if both parties are vibrant and viable. And in some respects right now, I feel like the Republican Party statewide is not. I promise you this, as Governor Ciattarelli, the State Republican Committee will not be broke, and it will not be understaffed. The State Republican Committee right now is broken, understaffed. It'll be a shared resource under Governor Ciattarelli, and it will be a shared resource with all 21 county organizations who will then trickle the money down to the local organizations, local races, and that's how we build a party. Not just from the bottom up, but from the top down. So those are some of the other reasons why I'm running for governor. Third reason I'm running for governor is this. I really felt, as a party, we owe it to ourselves to have a competition. Competition is a healthy thing. Let's not have a coronation. So my candidacy was about providing you all, and Republicans throughout the state, a choice on June 6th. A choice. Coronation is never a healthy thing. Competition is a healthy thing. But here's the last reason why I decided to run for governor. I believe this in my heart of hearts. The only way that we win as a party in November is with a new message, a new messenger, and a new direction. I believe that. We need to move beyond the Christie Guadagno era, and that's what my candidacy provides. And as with any candidacy, endorsements are very, very important. And I just picked up an endorsement last week that was very, very hard, painful. It took me more than 8 months almost. And so finally, after all this time, I've been endorsed by my mother. It took 8 months. Mom's here tonight. Yeah. But listen, she knows me best. I don't want you to think there's any skeletons in the closet. Here was the problem with Mom. When I announced last October 4th, I told the Ciattarelli family story of how my father's parents immigrated here from Italy 100 years ago. My mother was one of 8 from Brooklyn, Bensonhurst. My mother's uncle owned a chicken farm out in central Jersey in a place known as Martinsville. She'd come out on the weekends and sunbathe and watch on lake. And on one particular Sunday afternoon, in the summer of '49, she went there to sunbathe. My father went there with his little transistor radio to listen to the Yankee game. Yeah, he had a $5 bet on it. He got to the lake to listen to the game. My mother didn't get much sunbathing in. He didn't listen to the game, and 13 years later, I came along. But between my parents, one high school diploma. One. Unbelievable work ethic. Integrity. Nothing they wouldn't do for their neighbor, their community, their state, or their nation, and never, ever expected anything in return. And who they are is who I am. And I get the sense that a lot of you are that way too. A lot of you are that way too. Anyway, the story made the paper that between my parents, there was one high school diploma. She called me up. Must you tell people there was only one high school diploma between your father and me? I said, Mom, you have nothing to be ashamed of. You and Dad have lived the American dream, provided us with a beautiful middle-class life. She said, people will think we're uneducated. I said, Mom, are you kidding me? She said, well, damn it, if you're going to tell people that story, make sure you tell them. I was the one with the high school diploma. Fierce, Justin, fierce. 85 years old, fiercely independent, proud. So 3 weeks ago, I just told the story as I told you that Mom had the high school diploma. There happened to be a journalist there to put it in the paper. She called me. I see you put it in the paper. I said, well, Mom, I said it. The journalist put it in the paper. She said, I'm so proud you said I was the one with the high school diploma. Not only will I endorse you, I'm sending you a check for your campaign. I said, Mom, I am on my way. On my way. But speaking of family, here are the Ciattarellis. My wife and I are married 23 years today. And you can't run for statewide office or any office without the unconditional love and support of your family, and particularly your spouse. And so she's the one that instigated my run. I came home in the spring after another frustrating day in Trenton, and she said to me, you've never been one to complain, you've always been successful, you've always been a hard worker, and you've never been afraid of failure. Why don't you just run for governor? So I said, you know what? I'm going to run for governor. So she instigated this. Our daughter Alexa graduated 3 weeks ago from West Virginia University, broadcast news journalism. She wants to be the next Katie Couric. She's interviewing for jobs, and she better find one, because someone's got to pay for my Social Security. Jake just completed his sophomore year at the University of Minnesota. He's a Golden Gopher, accounting and Italian major, and a cadet in the Army ROTC. AJ's graduating in Hillsborough High School, where we live in central Somerset County. He'll go to Rowan University in the fall. And the Mat Man, Matthew Ciattarelli, is just completing his sophomore year, great student, varsity swimmer. If I may brag for a second, some of the best times in the history of the school for a sophomore varsity swimmer, and that's because he swims in the summer out here in the Atlantic off of Surf City where they spend their time. I won't be there this summer. I'll be campaigning for governor. Okay? But here's the most important member of the family, our half-French, half-English bulldog, Jordy. Now, I got to tell you something. I'm a little bit worried about the people in New Jersey, and let me tell you why. I did an op-ed on school funding, posted it in the paper, and then we posted it on Facebook about how school funding causes the property tax crisis. We posted on Facebook, I got 3,000 likes. We posted this picture of Jordy on Facebook, 7,000 likes. Where are your priorities? Okay? But the point here is when I come home from a day in Trenton, when we've accomplished nothing on your behalf, this is what I look like. Upset, sad, yawning, and then taking a little nap. There he is in my legislative office. Hey, you all know we need reform desperately here in New Jersey. We need reform. What I'm about to show you today is really what the kind of thing, as an MBA, CPA, entrepreneur, and business owner, I've always given to my shareholders, my investors, my Fortune 100 clients, and my employees. A plan. A reform plan. I think you, the voters, go too easy on us as elected officials. There's two questions you never ask us. What exactly are you going to do to fix our problems? And are you willing to sacrifice re-election and do the right thing? You never ask us that. You never ask us that. So I want to give you something very specific on how to turn around New Jersey. And let me tell you this. I love the state this much, and I don't need this job. I've been very, very fortunate. I want the job. But I'm willing to sacrifice re-election to do what's right on behalf of New Jersey. We need a plan. But I warn you, I'm going to give you a crash course on what's going on in the state, and it's pretty jaw-dropping. Now, I have to add another adverse reaction here to these adverse reactions, and I'll tell you why. I was up in Warren County 3 weeks ago at one of my town halls, and somebody literally fell off their chair. Literally. The former Speaker of the House, Chuck Titanic, fell off his chair. I said, I got to add that to hot flashes and high blood pressure. Hey, we're in Hasbrouck Heights, and here is your school budget. I'm going to give you a quick crash course on school finance. It's really simple. You're all going to be experts, and then you're going to understand why we have a property tax crisis in this state. Because raise your hand if we've been talking about property taxes for 40 years. But we don't solve it. Tonight I'm going to show you how we solve it. Your Board of Education here in Hasbrouck Heights established a budget of almost $32 million pay for its school district. $32 million. And you need revenue in order to pay for those expenses. Where does the revenue come from to generate the $32 million? Well, $700,000 comes from the feds. $1.4 million comes from the state of New Jersey in the form of aid. You've got other revenues of almost $1 million, but here's the key. $29 million almost is used to pay for your school district. 91% of your school budget is paid for by the local levy, which is distributed to all of you in Hasbrouck Heights as per the assessed value of your home. Said another way, if you live in Hasbrouck Heights, you're paying 91 cents on the dollar for your schools. You ready? Jersey City is paying, what did you say? Wow. 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 That's not the expletive I talked about in the warning, but that is, you get the point. Jersey City is paying 17 cents on the dollar for their schools. Why? You get 4% of your budget paid for by state aid. 63% of the budget is paid for with state aid. Okay, it's been going on for 40 years. It gets worse. Now, wait a second. Where does all that state aid coming from for Jersey City, New York? Through your income tax. And I'm telling you, there has been revitalization. Hoboken's not as bad as Jersey City, New York, but I'll make an example out of Hoboken in a second. You'll understand why it's on the screen. Okay? Revitalization has happened in these communities. And in theory, shouldn't government aid go down as your own ability to pay goes up? Unemployment insurance is the best example. You lose your job in this state, we take care of our brother and sister. We let you file for unemployment, right? And if you get a job in week 11, we don't send you another unemployment check in week 12. But guess what happens at the end of week 26 if you don't have a job? Unemployment stops. No form of government aid was ever meant to be a subsidy in perpetuity. Yet that's what's going on in these towns. That's what's going on in these towns. Now watch what happens if I just make a little shift. Jersey City gets $120 million more than it's supposed to. Because there is this whole harmless clause in the current law put in place by John Corzine in the Democratic legislature in 2008 that says this: even as your community revitalizes, even as your community's ability to pay increases, the state will not reduce your state aid. That is a flaw in the current law, and these three towns are a perfect example. They have experienced enormous revitalization, and yet their state aid does not go down. Jersey City is overfunded because of that whole harmless clause by $160 million. $160 million. Watch what happens if we just take maybe $5 million away from Jersey City and we give it to you. So we just increased your aid from $1.4 million to $6.4 million by taking $5 million away from Jersey City, which is more than fair because they're $160 million overfunded and because you all have been paying for their school district for 40 years. There was a time when they needed help. They don't need that help any longer. So watch what happens when we take $5 million and give it to you, which means we can now lower the levy, right? We now don't need to tax you as much because we got you more state aid. Here's what happens. By a little shift of $5 million. That's what just happened. Now that's a permanent property tax decrease. That's not a circuit breaker. That's depending on state audits to produce $500 million and revenue growth to produce another $1 billion to pay for some circuit breaker plan. Okay, which my primary opponent has been pushing as a way to fix property taxes. It's another rebate program. And any rebate program that's dependent on future revenues is flawed. As someone, Rooney and I recently heard the treasurer give testimony in Trenton that said we have another revenue shortfall, $750 million. And because we do, they're going to delay the homestead property tax rebate checks from 2014, which were supposed to go out in May, are now going to be delayed until July, which is the first month of the new fiscal year. 2014, we still haven't made out the rebate checks yet. You can't solve property taxes depending on future revenue streams. You can't do it. This is the only way to fix the property tax problem permanently, by fixing school funding. Fixing school funding. Here's something else that drives me nuts about the current school funding law that's even more unconstitutional than what you've seen to date. Look what this community gets for pre-K. $68 million, $86 million. Why is Hoboken on the screen? Do you know that townhomes are selling in Hoboken for $2, $3, $4 million? Millionaires in Hoboken get to send their children to pre-K for free. Middle-class people in this community are paying through the nose for pre-K. They're actually paying twice. They're paying for it out of their own pocket, and then with their income tax, they're paying for these folks to send their children to pre-K for free. Now, I gotta tell you something. I'm not demonizing the people who live in these towns. They don't know what's going on. All they know is they can send their 3- and 4-year-olds to pre-K for free. These current economic and fiscal policies are actually making the middle class poorer. When we talk about New Jersey not being affordable, here are some of the reasons why. And I'll tell you something, I'm not a hyper-partisan. I'm about problem solving. But I want to see how the most liberal mindset defends this policy. I just can't wait to make this argument before the Supreme Court if the legislature doesn't agree with the folks that are all going to be in the legislature next year that are all here today. And I'm telling you something, there are Democrats in the legislature currently that represent suburban New Jersey towns that are being just as disadvantaged as Hasbrouck Heights, that are waking up to this. I mean, I don't know how close any of you follow Trenton as much. Kevin and I are there. But Kevin and I both know Steve Sweeney, the Senate president who represents the suburbs, and Vinnie Prieto, the Speaker of the House, another Democrat who represents the Jersey cities and Hobokens, are going at it like you wouldn't believe. You would think one of them was a Republican. Why? Because Steve Sweeney's constituents, if I may use the word, are getting screwed. And Vinnie Prieto, because he represents Jersey City, Hoboken, he wants the status quo. I'm telling you, this is the issue that galvanizes New Jerseyans no matter where they are in the political spectrum and wins us election in the fall. And Democrats hate when I take this presentation into their communities and put their town up on there and show how they're being disadvantaged just as Hasbrouck Heights is. Just as Hasbrouck Heights is. So what's going on exactly? In the current law, we have this whole harmless clause that says your aid can't be reduced even as your community revitalizes. We need to get rid of that. And there's other things in my plan as well that we'll talk about. Why do we need to get rid of the whole harmless clause? Take a look at the current distribution of K through 12 aid from the state. We hand out $12 billion a year for K through 12 aid to lower property taxes. Of the 600 districts in this state, 35 get 60% of the aid. The other 565 split the crumbs. And when you start dividing $4 billion along 565 towns, you end up with a town like Hasbrouck Heights whose current aid is only 1.4 million. 1.4 million. Worse yet, 35 school districts get 600 million for free pre-K. This community and 564 others get 0 for pre-K. 0. The result, unfair school funding and a higher property taxes in Hasbrouck Heights. Just how much higher are the property taxes? Now, in theory, right, Justin? In theory, shouldn't a $500,000 house anywhere in the state pay roughly the same? I mean, that's the same house, the same owner with the same socioeconomic profile. Why should it be $12,000? This has nothing to do with the inability of the local folks to control spending. This has everything to do with state funding of schools. It's gone on too long. It's unfair, it's flawed, and it's unconstitutional. There is a clause in the state constitution known as the Equal Benefit Clause. No community is supposed to benefit at the expense of another. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening when you compare Hasbrouck Heights to Hoboken. On property taxes, on school funding, and on pre-K. I believe the people of Hasbrouck Heights, their constitutional rights are being violated under the Equal Benefit Clause of the state constitution. So what do we need? We need school funding reform, first and foremost in my 5-point plan, because this permanently solves property tax crisis, and it's gone on way too long. And this is how Republicans win the majority this year in the legislature. It's how we win the argument, and if necessary, it's a new argument we'll win before the Supreme Court. There's other things in my plan too. For example, Jersey City exploits pilots. Does anybody know what a pilot is? A payment in lieu of taxes. So here's what they do in Jersey City, more so than any other town. They see a blighted area and they say to a developer, if you develop that section of town, don't pay property taxes. Make a flat payment to the town. A payment in lieu of taxes. It's a tax abatement, right? You all know when you pay your property taxes, it has 3 pieces. Municipal tax, county tax, school tax. When a developer gets a pilot, they make a flat payment to the town. 95% of that payment goes to the municipality, 5% of that payment goes to the county, and 0 to the school district. They actually perpetuate their dependency on state aid. And every time they do a pilot, that keeps that property off the tax rolls, which suppresses the assessed value of their town, which qualifies them for a whole other form of aid. It's unbelievable how they exploit the current law. So that's what my school funding reform does. More equitable distribution of the $10 billion and it gets rid of things like pilots. Said another way, it forces the pilot to make a payment toward the school system. I think public employees' benefits are still too generous. Now I'm going to tell you a little story about my mom, if you promise not to tell her, because I'll lose her endorsement, which took 8 months to get. My dad's deceased, but he worked 38 years on the line for public service. Dig and trench, street department, gas distribution. She worked 33 years on the line for J&J, 18 of those years midnights, 33 years quality assurance. She's 85. She collects his pension, her pension, and her Social Security. And those 3 checks add up to $27,000 a year. My mother's medically intensive because she's a stroke survivor. So she needs additional Medicare coverage. So she has $111 a month deducted from her Social Security check to pay for Medicare Part B. You're shaking your head. You know what I'm talking about, right? That's how most people do it in the private sector. It's fair. She needs the coverage, $111 a month, less spending, because she's paying for Medicare Part B. We've got retirees from the state, from our school districts, whose pension plus Social Security could equal $70,000, $80,000, $90,000. You know what the out-of-pocket expense would be for the rest of their life for the post-retirement health care benefit? One of the reasons why we're not making the full pension payment is because we're paying for the post-retirement health care benefit for retirees that are in a Cadillac plan, hundreds of thousands of employees on a cash basis. So I say this, all those employed in the public sector less than 10 years are going into a cash balance plan, all new hires go into a 401k. If your pension plus your Social Security for current and future retirees is more than $50,000, you'll begin to contribute toward your own post-retirement health care benefit on a sliding scale, and we will put an end to anyone getting a big fat check upon retirement for unused sick and vacation time. It will become use it, lose it under Governor Ciattarelli, and with the help of the legislators, future legislators that are in the room here tonight. When I was a Somerset County freeholder, I was not the most popular guy in the room. We ended payouts for unused sick and vacation time. It became use it, lose it. And we got rid of the lifetime health care benefit. It's not because I'm mean-spirited. It's not because I don't like my fellow woman or man. It's because we need to deal with the mathematical facts of the day. All of us living into our 80s and 90s changes the math. It changes the calculus of the benefits. It doesn't work anymore. We're on the verge of collapse. And this is what I'll do with those 4 little reforms I gave you, which save billions. I'll take every penny of it and not give you an income tax cut or a homestead property tax rebate check 2 days before the election, which Trenton is famous for doing. Okay? I will pour every penny of it back into the pension and we'll point it towards solvency. I'm a CPA, I've done pension plan accounting. You have to decrease the long-term unfunded liability, decrease the current expense, and increase the current payment, and that's how you point it towards solvency. We'll redo our tax code. Our tax code is an abomination. We'll make sure the estate tax stays abolished, because there's already talk in Trenton to bring it back. We'll get rid of transfer inheritance taxes. They actually touch more people than the estate tax. We won't ever tax the gain on the sale of your home. It's not a stock or a bond. It's your home. Now, you know what I love about the New Jersey tax code? If you sell your house for less than you bought it, we don't let you take the loss. You sell the house for more than you bought it, we're going to tax it. Here's something else that drives me nuts about New Jersey. It's in my tax reform plan. If you decide to redo a kitchen or a bathroom in your house, you generate a revenue for the town by going to pay for permit fees. You spurred the economy with the investment, and what do we do in New Jersey the moment the job's done? It's criminal. It's criminal. Right? Are you not expected, do we expect Justin to use the same 30-year-old toilet for the next 30 years? Can't we let Justin have a brand new toilet in that house and a brand new bathroom? Okay? So under Governor Ciattarelli, we will not have the assessed value of a home increase, which increases your property taxes because of a home improvement. We're not going to do that. We will allow for the carry forward of capital losses. We will allow for business to accelerate depreciation. We won't ever tax the gain on the sale of a family-owned business. Mom and pop shops on Main Street. I had a little bit of town time and I ate on Main Street tonight. Lovey's? Mm-hmm. Lovey's. Cavatelli and broccoli and sausage, it was magnificent. I'm going back. A lot of garlic and oil, which is why I'm keeping like a 4-foot distance. How many people start a business with $50,000 or $60,000 or $70,000, work their tail off for 15 or 20 years, now have a chance to sell it for $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, let them pay their capital gains to the federal government. We will not tax the gain on the sale of a family-owned business, mom and pop shops in New Jersey. Watch entrepreneurship take off. We'll phase out the corporate business tax in New Jersey. I will do that over a 10-year period. When you consider what our biggest corporations pay in property taxes, it only adds insult to injury that they also pay corporate business tax. We'll phase it out over 10 years. I prefer that as opposed to all these multi-million-dollar tax credit deals we give to corporations to get them to stay or to come. We are dead last in the nation last year in economic growth, and we're ranked first in the nation by Tax Foundation as the worst business climate. This tax overhaul, similar to what Reagan did in the early 1980s, will improve our business climate. It'll change the optics and perception and brand of New Jersey overnight. Create a tide that lifts all boats. Stimulate the economy, I believe, and create more opportunity and better paying jobs for everyone. It's something we need to do. I'll balance the ledger very responsibly, it's the CPA in me, by closing some corporate loopholes and playing with our marginal rates. But this will lower everyone's overall tax bill. And before I announced for governor, I ran this tax plan by all businesses of all sizes and individuals all along the income spectrum. And every one of them said, compared to what we currently have, sign me up today. We'll downsize state government. I think it's bloated. Our workforce, I think we can afford a 10% reduction in our 65,000 member workforce. I have 2 motor vehicle agencies in my legislative district, which covers parts of Somerset, Hardin, Middlesex, and Mercer County. Last summer, the lines were out the door 3 hours. I called motor vehicle and said, what's up? They said, computer glitch. I said, can you be more specific? They said, our hardware and software systems are more than 20 years old, and our desktop systems are operating on DOS. DOS. Now, I was with the Bergen County Young Republicans last month, and I was in front of 25 people under the age of 25. And I said DOS. And they all looked at me and said, what the hell are you talking about? They don't know what I'm talking about. You guys do. Some of you do. We are outmoded, antiquated. We need to modernize state government. Other states have implemented state-of-the-art hardware, software, technology. Skip the trip. Individuals and businesses don't even have to go to motor vehicles anymore. They can do everything over the internet. You're seeing it, right? In your office and what you're able to accomplish in the clerk's office, right? So we'll downsize state government and we'll plow that money, the savings, back into state government and make it more efficient, more streamlined, more modernized, and better for all of you to deal with on a regular basis. Here's the last point in my 5-point plan. I believe the relationship right now between the executive branch, the governor, and our New Jersey congressional delegation, both U.S. senators and all 12 Congress people, is dysfunctional. We don't sit down 3 or 4 times a year and advocate for New Jersey. We need to. We are dead last in the nation when you compare the federal income taxes we send to Washington, D.C. compared to what we get back on the dollar. And I'm not just talking this year or last year. I'm talking about for decades. We're dead last. I'm tired of New Jersey getting the short end of the stick. We need to advocate for New Jersey. Let me give you 2 examples. The Gateway Tunnel Project. We need a new rail tunnel underneath the Hudson. Now, Ted Kennedy got his big dig under the Boston Harbor. We want our tunnel. Do you know what that would mean to the North Jersey economy and real estate values here in North Jersey? Think about what New Jersey transit riders are going through every single day because those rails are over 100 years old, those railroads. We need this, okay? And we need to advocate for this. This belongs in Trump's $1 trillion infrastructure project. Let me tell you another thing we need to advocate for. I'm not being critical of the president, okay? I support the president. But his new tax plan is talking about eliminating the property tax deduction on your federal return. Not good, right? I saw that face. Here's what I would say with our New Jersey congressional delegation. Time out. If you're adamant about doing something, do this. Give people a choice between mortgage interest and property tax. But don't eliminate the property tax deduction. How many people no longer have a mortgage but still have all those property taxes? Right. We can't have them eliminating the property tax deduction on the federal return. We need that. We need that. I believe in this. Let me tell you something else I believe in. I refuse to stand before you. I've never done it. I've won twice at the municipal level, twice at the freeholder level, now 3 times in District 16, all 7 times, by the way, in jurisdictions where Democrats outnumber Republicans. I've never compromised my Republican principles. Self-reliance, free enterprise, small government, lower taxes. But at the end of the day, I'm a problem solver. I'm not rigid in my ideology. I'm not a hyperpartisan. I'm about solving problems. I believe this solves our fiscal and economic problems. And I refuse to stand before you and give you platitudes, generalities, or rhetoric. I think you deserve specifics. Now, there's great danger in this, because you don't usually see this kind of thing from candidates. For the longest time, one of my opponents, they didn't have a plan. Then all of a sudden, they had a plan. Their plan was to attack my plan. You've all seen that kind of candidate before. I'm just going to stick to my 5-point plan. Now, I don't want you to think that there are other things that aren't on my radar screen. At the local level, affordable housing needs to be fixed, and we need leadership from the governor to do that. We need a legislative solution. Even the Supreme Court has said, legislature solve this. But we tend not to because of a lack of leadership. And then what the Supreme Court does is comes in and say, listen, we told you to solve it, you didn't, so here's our solution. Their solutions suck. They're not bad at identifying an injustice. They're really, really bad at putting forth a solution. It's our job to put forth a solution, and we haven't. Correct, Kevin? We have bills in, but we're getting no leadership from the governor, executive branch, and the majority speaker, and the Senate president on this. At the county level, I believe the Open Public Records Act is being abused. Okay? County government is having 2 employees tied up just fulfilling Oprah requests. And many times the Oprah request is coming in from companies that are for-profit companies getting the information for free from the county and then turn around and selling it. That wasn't the point of Oprah, the Open Public Records Act. So I don't want you to think I'm so focused on this. I think this should be our priority, given the economic and fiscal crisis that we're up against. But all these other things that are important to you, if they're not any one of these 5, are on my radar screen. And with that, I appreciate you being here tonight, and now it's time for the fun part. Q&A. As long as there's no softballs. I do not like softballs. I want every question to be a high and tight fastball, and if you raise your hand, please don't make a statement in fairness to your friends here, your neighbors. Say what you want to say, get off your chest, and get your question. This way it'll make more time for everybody to get more questions in. And here's our first question. And hold on, because we have people with microphones, unless you have a booming voice.
I'm fine. I was just going to ask, as governor, with the Assembly Speaker and the Senate President both being on the other party, how do you solve the backlog in Trenton?
This is how we solve it. We win in November. Now, I got to tell you something. I'm going to win on Tuesday. I'm going to speak in the affirmative. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I mean it in a kind of fun way. But you got to believe in yourself, right? You got to believe. And we're doing extremely well. I think we got a better message. I think we have a better campaign. I think we're working harder. And I think voters are seeing that. I think we're going to like the outcome for campaign Ciattarelli on Tuesday night. But listen, as the leader of this party, if I win the primary, we're going to battle in all 40 districts. There will be no deals. And for my primary opponent to stand up and say we're not going to win the legislature, when there are 40 very courageous people running for state senate and 80 very courageous people running for state assembly, listen, if you come to my town with your son or daughter's baseball or softball team and you're 13-0 and I'm 0-13, I'm not telling my kids we're losing. We're playing the game. We're going to play fair, we're going to play by the rules, but we're playing the game. And I intend to go to all 40 districts. And I'm telling you, there's a chance for us to win this year in November. I know all the conventional wisdom. There's no way a Republican can win this year because the Christie-Cadogna numbers are at record lows, that a Republican never follows 8 years of Republican administration. Listen, throw out the conventional wisdom. The Chicago Cubs won the World Championship last year after 107 years, and Donald Trump is the President of the United States. Throw out the conventional wisdom. Don't ever let somebody listen. Here's what I've always said to my kids, and they come along and say, Dad, I can't do it. Don't ever say can't. Try. I'm telling you there's an opportunity. And the issues I showed you tonight are galvanizing issues. We will win soft Democrats. We will win the 2.5 million unaffiliated independent voters. There's 1.2 million Republicans, there's 2 million Democrats, there's 2.5 million unaffiliated independent voters that lean right of center, that vote with their pocketbook and their wallet, and they want to vote for us. I intend to give them energy, and I intend to give them a reason. Millennials, women, minorities, people of color. Let's give them a reason. I had an event the other night. And Mark, were you at my event the other night?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you were, up in Somerset County.
Absolutely.
Here's what made my day. I gave a speech about energizing not only Republicans and soft Democrats, but the 2.5 million unaffiliated independent voters, millennials, women, people of color, minorities. And this gentleman came up to me afterwards, dressed in a suit. He said, I'm Muslim, and I want to be part of this party, but I just want to know if this party wants me. He said, but your speech tonight told me that you do want me. I said, we do want you. We're the party of Lincoln. We're the party of inclusion. We're the Big Tent party. We're the party of opportunity. I'm telling you we can do this. And I'll tell you one other reason why we can win in November. Because on Tuesday, if I'm correct, Democrats are going to pick a very, very flawed candidate. A very, very flawed candidate. He is making promises that cannot be kept. $15 minimum wage, full funding of the current school funding formula, but not taking the $160 million away from Jersey City. He wants to mandate that renewable energies will be our sources of all energy in the not too distant future. He wants to make the full pension payment. I mean, here's my first question of that debate. Where are you getting the $20 billion? Where do you get the $20 billion to make all that happen? You know every one of those businesses on your main street just a couple blocks from here? Do you know what $15 minimum wage would do to those businesses? Shut them down. Shut them down. Okay? The legislature should revisit the minimum wage every 3 to 5 years. It does not belong in the Constitution, and right now, given our economy in New Jersey, it does not belong at $15. But we can win. Sorry for the long answer.
No, I love it.
But I get really passionate about this. Okay? There's no white flag in our closet. We're proud Republicans. Let's have a fair fight. Let's have a fair fight. Yes, sir.
So you take away this money from Newark.
Yep.
Take away this money from Newark. How do they solve their school problems in Newark with that amount of money going away?
So that's a two-dimensional question. Let me say this to you, because someone said this to me the other day. Jack, you're only causing property taxes to go up, or you're going to hurt their school system in Jersey City. I said, wait a second. They're overfunded by $160 million. I'm taking $5 million away. They have a choice to make. You know what that choice is? They either decrease their expenses, or they increase their levy. They can make up the $5 million through their levy. Their levy is only 17% of their budget. Over here, it's 91%. Let me show you something else that goes on. Thank you for your question, because it reminds me. That is the sweet spot. The sweet spot is anywhere from $15,000 to $17,000 per student. You take the $32 million, divide by the number of kids, 16 to 17 million is the sweet spot. Look what happens when someone else is paying for your school district. Look at the cost per student. You don't think this is not coincidental. When you don't have a skin in the game, when you're spending someone else's money on your school district, look what happens to the cost per student. It starts going through the roof. It starts going through the roof. Asbury Park is, how should we say, the highest or the worst? $35,000 per kid. More than it costs you all to send your son or daughter to Rutgers, full-time including room and board. Here's the second part of your question. Now, Melinda and I are not the perfect parents. Far from it. We try. We're not the perfect parents. But it does not matter how much you spend per student. If mom and dad and custodians aren't doing their job, it won't matter. Now, here's the job of leadership. I need to find a way to have that conversation, I think I can, so it doesn't devolve into a suburb versus urban, rich versus poor, white versus black discussion, because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about fairness. And all I'm saying is after 40 years, do we continue to take money away from the people of Hasbrouck Heights to pay for their schools after 40 years? Because in many cases, what we now have is 40 years of data that shows it doesn't really improve the educational outcome. So the question for the Supreme Court is it fair to continue to take money for things like pre-K from these folks to pay for other people's pre-K? I think it's a very compelling argument. I think it's a fair argument. I'm not saying it's not a delicate argument. But as we always say to our children, there's nothing we can't say to each other when we say it in constructive and respectful terms. But let's not be afraid to have a very, very honest conversation here in New Jersey.
I do crisis intervention for emotionally disturbed.
Wait, I want the folks to hear this with the microphone.
I do crisis intervention for emotionally disturbed students in Bergen County, and our annual cost is per student is up and above the $16,900. One year we did not pass the budget. The children were literally punished in a roundabout way. Computer systems went. The music program went. I mean, things went down the drain. Same thing happened in Paramus. I live in Paramus. So how do you make it equitable across the board? So, I don't know if I'm explaining myself.
No, I know where you're going.
Okay. How do you make it equitable across the board so these students are not punished?
Right.
And also, teachers, I'm there. They perceive a plan like this to be very negative. We need to get that word across and make it clear how you can do that.
Well, right. So
Because I've fought, I've studied and I've looked at your plan, and I think it's great. But it's very hard for me as a layperson to explain it.
Right.
So, but I think that word needs to get out for the teachers and
Well,
educators.
certainly my job as a candidate and as governor is to keep it easy, because I gotta tell you, this can get pretty complicated. There's a lot of weeds going on here, and I don't want to get people into the weeds. But there's another line here, and I don't know if those of you in the back can see it. State aid per student. That's this line right here. This line right here, divided by the number of kids in the student. So Hasbrouck Heights gets $750 per student. 12,000, 15,000, 4,000, right? We need a formula that has a more equitable distribution. Now, with regard to the unions, you know, it gets me sometimes because NJEA doesn't want reform. And when I say to them, do you know what you're doing? You're actually screwing the teachers in this system who have much less resources. Now, I have a town in my district called Manville, ravaged by the exit industry, ravaged by flooding. They just sacrificed their library to create more classrooms.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. So what's starting to happen, because this has been going on now for 40 years, you're going to see these districts that are so severely disadvantaged, they're now starting to cut to the bone. Look what Bayonne did. Bayonne just laid off 300 teachers. 300. Classroom sizes are going to double. That's Bayonne's way of saying to Trenton, you know what, you're going to continue to do this? We're done. We're going to cut right to the bone. Freehold is taking another route. They are suing the state of New Jersey because they're in the same situation as Hasbrouck Heights. So another reason why we need to do this is not just because what we currently have is inequitable, but I'm telling you, we're getting to an emergency state now after 40 years. These districts are starting to be made poorer, and the quality of education is now going to start to suffer significantly. Not here. Go into these. Here's another dirty little secret about these. When you guys build a new school, you go to bonding, don't you? Who pays for the bonding? Your local taxpayers. Guess what these districts get? Free construction. They don't pay a dime for the construction of new schools. It's a dirty little secret. Zero construction costs.
So how do you get that plan across to the general public?
Well, listen, this is how we win this year. That's my job, to take this show on the road, and I will, as a gubernatorial candidate, I will go everywhere. And guess what? No matter what district I'm in, the legislative candidates are going to be sitting there with me. And we're going to take this on the road. And I'm telling you, I know this for a fact, Democrats do not like when we come to a town near you. The Democratic legislators, they don't like it. But this is all fact-based. These numbers are right off of the New Jersey Department of Education. I put the website right there. Every school district in this state is required by law to submit their budget right there. You can go on that website and pull these numbers right off the website. That's right off the website. I can't wait to go and do this. I mean, this to me is what makes it fun. Right? I mean, this is hard work, so let's make it fun. Yes, ma'am.
I just gotta ask the same question. Where do you have all the towns listed?
There they are. You go to that website.
Could you please
Oh.
read it? I can't.
Well, the website is way too long with all those. Here, I'll tell you this. If you go to Google, you put in New Jersey School District User-Friendly Budgets, or New Jersey Department of Education User-Friendly Budgets, Google will produce with its search the website that has that URL.
Thank you.
Yes?
As a councilwoman in Paramus, many people are very concerned, as I am, about this Affordable Housing Commission coming in and telling communities what they have to provide in the way of affordable housing and literally changing the landscape of all of our communities. What can you do as governor to help us out with this? Because people are just so upset. Many of these towns really cannot afford to put so many apartments and all. I believe everyone should have a place to live.
Yeah.
You know, and of course I want to provide affordable housing for everyone. But they have just gone over the top, and I know many of these decisions are coming down in June by some arbitrary.
Superior Court judge,
This
through
is
building
crazy.
remedy suits.
What would you be able to do?
So here's how I would solve this, and I'm glad you said what you said, because I too believe that we should have affordable housing. First of all, it represents the economic development opportunity, and you don't want the 4 Ciattarelli kids living at home forever with Melinda and I, right? We do want to get them, as I always tell my kids, you know, at the end of spring, the robins, yeah, they leave the nest, you know. They learn to fly, maybe they get a little noggin, but they do eventually learn to fly. I believe the solution is this. The Department of Labor can tell us for every one of our 565 towns how many low-paying jobs there are in every town. A low-paying job is one that's below the poverty line. So I'm not picking on any profession, but let me use an example, maybe janitors. Should not every community be providing affordable housing units for the number of low-paying jobs in its town, so that the lowest-paid people don't have to travel an hour to get to work? So anyway, let's just say in this town of Hasbrouck Heights, the Department of Labor told us that there are 200 low-paying jobs in this town. I think their quota should be 150% of that, or 300. Why the extra? Well, because there's disabled persons, there's seniors, there's veterans, and there's millennials that are coming home, right? And that's their starter. So that to me is the answer. I do believe that the largest concentrations of affordable housing should go in our urban centers, where there is mass transit, where there's the greatest number of low-paying jobs, and those urban centers desperately need people to live there. Because what happens when people live near a Main Street? You see all those businesses on Main Street. And what we don't have is really a small business economy in places like Newark. Wherever people live is where small businesses begin to sprout up. And so we have to get like that, we have to instigate that fire to get the small economies that emerge in these towns. It makes no sense whatsoever to have to put 4,000 units in a town that's built out, has no more sewer capacity, has no mass transit, or people have to drive an hour to get to work.
I mean, they're talking about in Paramus that we might be liable for 10,000 units in order to provide 1,000 of affordable housing units.
That's right, and that's the scary
insane.
part. I don't think it should be tied into market rate units per se. Because if they came down and said that your quota is 1,000, then you have to build
10,000.
10,000, 9,000 market rate for the 1,000 affordable. So 10,000 more units. This is another example of a policy that makes the middle class poorer in our suburbs. It really does. Because think of all the added taxes, because now you have to, more fire, more police, schools, so on and so forth.
Exactly. I'm
We
very...
need a legislative solution. Yeah. Yes, sir. Right behind you is the mic.
You mentioned President Trump.
Yes, sir.
It was kind of a miracle that he got elected with everyone that was against him.
Well, I don't know if it was a miracle, but
Well, I mean, to this day,
yeah.
there are many forces against the media, the Democrats, many Republicans.
Yeah, but
It's a
not to
miracle
interrupt you,
of
but at
God.
the end of the day, you know who decides elections? Voters.
Well,
And I gotta tell you,
there's someone above the voters. It's, the Word of God says that God puts leaders in office. I mean, if you want
all right.
to really extend it to more of truth. And you mentioned, I believe, in one of your debates over the TV, maybe a few years ago, that you would like to defund Planned Parenthood. Is that correct?
What I've said is this: we need a total reevaluation of all discretionary dollars. And I think that there are some other types of priorities that have emerged. Like, for example, in this state, we have homeless veterans. In this state, we don't have enough beds for drug addicts. And in this state right now, we are at a peak demand for mental health services that can't be met. So when I take a look at what I call discretionary spending, and taxpayer dollars that are spent on Planned Parenthood is in fact discretionary spending, it's not that I'm against women's health. What I'm saying is we need a total reevaluation of every dollar of discretionary spending, and we need to decide how best to spend it.
Could I just say, though, the one that's exposed Planned Parenthood for selling body parts, and really, what they really do is they don't counsel the girls when they go in with their boyfriend or husband. They don't give the girls a choice. It is money making, and it's really blood money, because all of us were in our mother's womb.
Yeah, I do believe Planned Parenthood, too, has an opportunity to fund itself through public-private partnerships. There's a number of industries that do very well by Planned Parenthood. Let them begin to talk with Planned Parenthood about how to better fund Planned Parenthood without using taxpayer dollars.
So just ask you another question, if you don't mind.
Not at all, sir.
Are you pro-life?
Here's what I am. I'm for parental notification, which we do not have in New Jersey. I'm not for ever using taxpayer dollars for abortion. And I'm for getting waivers from the federal government, as a few other states have done, to decrease the number of unwanted pregnancies in teenagers and amongst the working poor.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Phillips, Assembly candidate here in District 40.
Thank you, sir. So, back to the school funding board.
Yes.
Suburban, Democrat, suburban Democrat legislators, suburban Republican legislators. Why can't they get together and solve this issue? We agree on this issue.
Right.
And I agree with you, it's not suburbs versus cities, but you would think we would have the numbers to get it done.
So the answer to this question is, if we do not win, but I think we will win the majority in the legislature, but if we do not, we have a precedent here. Back in 2011, we did historical pension and healthcare reform by making public workers contribute more to the pension and more toward the healthcare. Okay? You only got to get 41 in the Assembly and 21 in the Senate, right? Guess what? We got there with every Republican voting yes and just a handful of Democrats who represented districts that didn't have a large constituency of public sector union citizens. And that's how we'll accomplish the goal. And I believe the time is right. And the Steve Sweeney going after Vinnie Prieto is an example of Democratic legislators that are on our side on this issue. So if we do not win the majority, I think we will, and we're going to fight to do that in all 40 districts. There are a handful enough. Now, there were a great many Democrats that voted no on that pension and health care reform in 2011. But all we need to do is get to 41. All we need to do is get to 41. So we need a small minority of them in the districts that are most disadvantaged. And if we take this show on the road and put that kind of pressure on them, I think we can get the votes. Yes, sir.
I'm just amazed, first of all, that was $1 billion that no expense, and you're worried about how you're gonna take care of this. I don't think, the whole country of India spends $1 billion on K through 12, and they're doing a pretty good job there.
Newark School District is $1 billion. $20,000 per student. 15 of the 20,000 is paid for by who?
So that is my question, really.
Listen, wait, that's not last year or this year. It's 40.
Right, no, it's crazy. But the bottom line is this, you put that number up there, and it struck me because I moved from Jersey City to Hasbrouck Heights when I got married. I guess I probably should have stayed there when I saw the difference in property taxes. But my house was built in 1890. It was a farm. You know, they probably grew crops and paid property taxes on a percent of their crops. I don't grow crops anymore. And how do you, I mean, moving $5 million around, it lowers it. We have to, I mean, property taxes in the state, I'm a financial advisor. I have every person who's close to retirement, who is wealthy, they're not talking about staying in New Jersey. They're talking about moving to Delaware, moving to Pennsylvania, moving to Florida. So we're losing the wealth. The people who are staying are the ones who are benefiting from this $1 billion, whether they work in Newark or Jersey City or, you know, it's unsustainable.
It's not sustainable. How about this one? How about all the school teachers that benefited from this, and then when they retire, they move out of state, taking the pension with them, stimulating another state's economy?
But we're not going to be able, so you won't pay it. So you really, I mean, to me, the importance is it's unsustainable.
It's not sustainable.
The state is, we're going to be Puerto Rico in 10 to 15 years.
That's exactly where we're headed.
And I don't, and when you, if you lose, I mean, last year they lost, you know, a guy made $2 billion and
Tepper,
so what is going to happen?
the hedge fund manager, moved out of New Jersey, we lost $150 million in revenue.
But how are you going to change that
150 million revenue.
with, you're going to be fought on it because we pay for pre-K. I mean, when I was working in Jersey City when all those pre-Ks popped up.
Yeah.
They were, you know, kids finger painting and people getting $10,000, you know, everybody who was involved politically was opening one to, you know, to get $10,000, drive around in Jaguars and take trips to Aruba. And there's no accountability. Nobody's going in and saying, how are you benefiting these children?
The mayor of Jersey City, Steve Fuller, lives in an $800,000 townhouse. His taxes are $7,800. He's actually being sued by one of his own citizens because he's got a tax abatement on his property. Because she doesn't have a tax abatement on her property. She's paying more property taxes on a house that's less than his. This is what's going on. And I'm telling you, these are the things the Supreme Court doesn't know. And for some reason, I don't know why the governor didn't want to make the argument this way. I didn't support his fair school funding formula. He wants to take the $10 billion, divide by the total number of kids in the K through 12 system statewide, and that comes out to $6,600 per kid, and give that to each school district. The math of his proposal is beautiful. It'll never pass muster with the Supreme Court. Because I will tell you, there are some districts that are going to need a little more help than others. Okay? I will tell you that places like Camden still need a little more help than others, right? But not ones that have experienced revitalization, not ones that are exploiting pilots, not ones that are getting free pre-K. No.
And how many of these budgets get voted on now?
They get voted on. But as long as they're within the 2% cap, voters usually.
Right, so as long as everything,
If they're within the 2% cap, they don't go on the ballot anymore. They only go on the ballot if they're above the 2% cap.
so, but 2% is great, but it's never, so that doesn't get my property, like, property tax is just gonna go up, so.
The 2% cap is good at controlling, but it doesn't do a good job of lowering.
You gotta clean, I mean, you
Right.
gotta.
But I gotta tell you something, there is no property tax crisis in these towns because the school tax on the property is so low. I've got a friend that just sold his 6,000 square foot, one estate home in Montgomery Township, the suburbs, for $1.5 million. He took the $1.5 million and bought a $1.5 million Hudson River condo in Hoboken. So he sold a $1.5 million estate home in Montgomery, the suburbs, bought a $1.5 million waterfront condo at Maxwell Place in Hoboken. It's where Maxwell Coffee used to be. You know where it is? It's magnificent. His dining room table, the Manhattan skyline, the Hudson River, the ferry is right there. He's in Manhattan in 14 minutes. His taxes on his $1.5 million home in Montgomery were $40,000, 30 of which went to the schools. They get no state funding. Do you know what his taxes are? His $1.5 million home in Hoboken? $7,000 because he got a property tax to pay. And he gets to send his kids to free pre. What are we doing?
So how do you fight that with this legislature? I mean, is it just, we have to strengthen the Republican Party top to bottom?
First of all, we're going to win the legislature with this argument. If by some infinitesimal chance we don't, we're going to get a handful of Democrats that represent suburban towns that are just as disadvantaged, because I plan on taking this presentation to a town near you and put the pressure on them from their constituents. Steve Sweeney's feeling that pressure. That's why he's going after Vinnie Prieto.
Good luck.
Yeah. Know this, NJEA, because Steve Sweeney wants to redo the formula, NJEA is fighting Steve Sweeney.
They endorse the Republican candidate.
Right? We'll see. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. But I'm telling you, there's an opportunity here. I could tell from you seeing this. You're getting motivated, aren't you? When you look at this, where's this state? I mean, I'm just the whole, look at this. So they pass a $1 billion budget in Newark, and 74 cents on the dollar, 74% of it's paid for by the people of New Jersey, not the locals. Over here, look at this. The people of this town are paying 91 cents on the dollar, 13 cents on the dollar. Doesn't that get you a little ticked off? Just wait until I take this to a Democratic town and put them up there. Listen, I'm one of these people, I'm not trying to pit us against each other. But when I see an inequity, I get motivated. I hate when something's unfair. And this is unfair. This is unfair.
And unsustainable.
And
That's my point.
unsustainable.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's a train coming
Yeah.
slamming
Oh, yeah?
into us because
Yeah, but I gotta tell you
the
something.
people in this room are not gonna be.
When you say we're gonna be Puerto Rico, we're gonna be Puerto Rico in the suburbs first,
Right.
because of what's going on out there. Yes, ma'am.
I think that the point you brought up about, you touched on about seniors moving out of New Jersey, very good point, because the baby boomers are all retiring. And so many of us are either moving out of New Jersey or thinking moving out of New Jersey because of the taxes. A lot of this is a federal or just, but it's, we can't make any money on CDs anymore, or this or that, so we have some security annuities and different things like this. But a lot of us can't afford to live in New Jersey anymore. So is your plan, assuming that you'll be able to get it through, because I hear what you're saying, and I'm very happy about it. But what you can accomplish and how long it would take is another question. But would this offset, if our property taxes were a lot lower, would it offset the horrible economy where we're not making, we can't make any money with CDs and this and that and all these different things?
Well, the fact that you're not making as much interest income because we're in a low interest rate period means that you need your expenses to be low. So for example, when I talk about how better to do pre-K, if I can lower people's, I can't lower your taxes out here, which I believe my plan does, at least I should be able to lower your pre-K expenses, right? I mean, one of the things that I want to do with this $600 million that's spent, this $600 million right here, that's spent on these 35 districts, I'm not going to increase taxes. I'm taking that $600 million and I'm creating a voucher program for all couples, parents whose income is below $75,000. I'm going to give you a voucher that you can take and now send your 3 or 4-year-old to pre-K, and I just lowered the cost of your pre-K. So we're going to distribute this $600 million across the entire state, not these 35 school districts. So things like that, lower your out-of-pocket expenses. To answer the other part of your question, the governor takes office in January. He or she must introduce their first budget that July 1st. I will spend those first 6 months coming up with a new and equitable fair funding formula to distribute that $10 billion, and it'll be in my very, very first budget. So when you say how long, hopefully a new school funding formula will be in my very, very first budget. But know this, the governor has line item veto in New Jersey. So when I submit that budget, the legislature can do whatever they want. When they give it back to me, I can do whatever I want. It's a very, very powerful constitutional right our governor has, a line item veto. I think that's kind of exciting. Especially if the guy in office is a CPA. Yes, ma'am. Well, let's go to someone who hasn't asked a question yet.
I was down in Atlantic City last week.
Yes.
I was wondering if you would do anything different or the same regarding revitalizing that city?
So all along, I felt that as the MBA CPA, that what was in the best interest of Atlantic City was a municipal bankruptcy. I didn't like the fact that the state took it over. We have trouble getting our own house in order. How are we going to run somebody else's house? So a municipal bankruptcy would have been a much better situation to deal with the unions. It also would have been a much better situation to deal with the $600 million in debt that Atlantic City has that just isn't sustainable. It also would have removed all politics. The bankruptcy court judge would have appointed a monitor, as opposed to us appointing a buddy of the governor's down there. And so that's the best way. I also believe this. A lot of people don't know this. Businesses pay income tax. Corporations pay tax when they make money. Casinos pay tax on the revenues. 8% tax on the revenues. So even when they are losing money, they're paying taxes. And the gaming industry being under such severe financial pressure, I think the better way to go is to give them a traditional taxation model, just like my business. My business does not pay income tax unless the business makes money. When you have a loss, you don't pay income tax. So the industry being under such severe pressure, let's stop taxing revenues. Let's tax the bottom line. And then let's get rid of the pilots. Because what's also screwing up Atlantic City is those casinos all have pilots, which means they're not paying property taxes like everybody else on the assessed value of their property, and no money's going to the school district. In fact, it's gotten so bad with the pilots, Atlantic County is now suing Atlantic City over the pilots. You have the county suing a city over the pilots. Can it get any more messy? Can't get any more messy. So that's what we need to do to revitalize Atlantic City, in my opinion.
Jack, we got time for one more.
Okay, that usually means 2 or 3. Let's go to somebody that hasn't asked a question yet. Yes, sir. And then we'll go here next.
I spoke to you on a sidebar of the issue, but on the issue on the legalization of recreational marijuana, there's a bill that was down in Trenton, being pushed for the state, which you told me I appreciated, that it should be a state issue.
State by state. The federal government should
But
not weigh in.
there was a bill being pursued for recreational, to incorporate medical under the umbrella of recreation. If you were governor, Christie took a very nasty position against it. Would you, if the bill came forward, would you veto it or would you defend it?
So I am for the expanded use of marijuana in all cases for medicinal purposes if the medical community believes that it can help the patient. I'm a cancer survivor, and my pain never got to that threshold. But I saw people at the clinic that were not responding to traditional pain management. And I think they should have any type of alternative that there is. I believe in decriminalization. As governor, day one, decriminalization. The question then becomes, what is recreational use possession? Now, Ciattarelli's bill that was recently introduced said recreational use possession was 50 grams. I'm not a pot smoker. That sounds like a lot of pot. I think we just need to have a discussion. I'm for legalization if things go well in Colorado. I want to see how things go for about a year. And I understand the argument that this would produce $100 or $200 million in new revenue for the state of New Jersey, but I've never been one of those people to justify a policy decision just because it's a revenue enhancer. I think that's a slippery slope because we can start talking about a few other things that would produce a lot of revenue too that I don't think we want to do in New Jersey. So let's see how things go in Colorado with outright legalization. Day one, decriminalization. This country has 4% of the world's population. This country has 25% of the world's prison population. That's a fact. And it's because we've got a lot of people behind bars that are no threat to society that were arrested with a recreational use possession of a drug, or they're drug addicts and they're going to come out still addicted. We need reforms. So I'm all for decriminalization. Yes, sir. Let's give you a microphone so everyone can hear your question.
Thank you for the presentation, first of all. It's been very insightful. I just have a question about the deficit, so to speak, between Washington and New Jersey. What do those numbers look like? The fifth point in your 5-point plan, and what's your strategy in terms of tackling that?
So we get 60 cents back on the dollar, and I think the way to improve that, we're last in the nation. 60 cents, all the money we send in federal income tax to Washington State, we get back 60 cents on the dollar. And quite frankly, I think it's because our New Jersey congressional delegation has never really, it's always been split, almost half Republican, half Democrat. It was 6-6 with our 12 Congress people. Now it's 7-5, and the 2 U.S. senators have been Democrats for the longest time. I just think that what the governor has to do is pull them in the room and say, listen, here's 1 or 2 things per year we need to focus on. And one way to increase the return on investment is, for example, the Gateway Project. If the federal government included that in its infrastructure budget, we'd be getting back more of what we send there to pay for a project like that. Now that project's going to be about $20 billion. It's a 10-year project. And I do want you to know I got Plan B on this one. Plan B on this one, if Trump doesn't fund this, our tax agreement with New York is the complete opposite of our tax agreement with Pennsylvania. Our tax agreement with Pennsylvania is this: you pay income taxes on your wages where you live. With New York, our agreement is you pay income tax on your wages where you work. We've got 200,000 New Jerseyans that pay no income tax to this state on their wages because they work in New York. So they paid their fare to get there. Maybe they bought breakfast, lunch, or dinner there if they worked late. If there's an anniversary or birthday at home, they bought a gift. New York State gets the entire stimuli of those purchases, right? And they get the income taxes, and then Cuomo doesn't even take that $2 billion in income taxes and reinvest it into the infrastructure that gets those New Jerseyans to New York. So here's what I'm saying to Cuomo, and some attorneys have told me this tax agreement with New York is unconstitutional in New Jersey. Here's what I would say to Cuomo: we're keeping that tax break, and we'll pay for the Gateway Project. And when it's all over, we get to keep those income tax dollars. That's good for New York, because now the trains will get there with this new tunnel. It's good for New Jerseyans, a safer rail system, and it's good for us fiscally. And New Jerseyans like that because I'll make sure our income tax rates are always less than New York's. But we need to negotiate. I know with Donald Trump, it's the heir of the deal. I'm not the second Donald Trump, but I'm about what's fair. And I'm telling you right now, our tax agreement with New York disadvantages us and is a boon to New York. Those 200,000 people going into New York City, they're not government services intensive. Maybe one of them needs a rescue squad from time to time, but they're not. They're going to a job and coming home, right? I didn't want to go there, but he's right. He said they're working on Wall Street. They're working on Wall Street. Last question. If someone hasn't asked one yet, we're going to come back to you. Oh, now I got to do 2 questions. These 2 are our last 2 questions. Brian, second to last.
I have a political question.
Yes.
Rather than a policy question.
Yes.
So as a millennial woman,
Yep.
What would you do if elected, and I wish you the best on Tuesday, to help move the youth movement within the Republican Party to get more involved, more engaged, as more baby boomers move out of state? You are going to rely on us to really become the voice of the party, and so I'm interested to hear.
So I want you to look at Brian when I say this, because Brian is part of the young Republicans, and they're part of a federation of young Republicans. You know, I pride myself as a business owner on motivating my employees. They're of all ages. I'm right out of college. They're of all colors, all ethnicities, and all religions. Because we don't care at my company. Because we want to make money, we just hire the most competent people. And you not only have to be competent, you have to work well on the team. So my job is to get people energized and excited. It's my nature. I'm a positive person. I'm a problem solver. I think that's the way you motivate people. That's the way you motivate people. And so look at Brian right now. Have we been able to motivate with this campaign young Republicans statewide?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's how. So when I say this, I don't say it being modest, but I think my responsibility is to energize Republicans, soft Democrats and unaffiliated, but millennials, women, minorities, and people of color. And that Muslim that came up to me the other night at my event and said, I want to be part of this party. I believe what this party believes. I just want to know what this party wants me. We want you. We want you. So that's my job, is to get people energized. Yeah, and we can do it here in New Jersey. Know one thing about this state. We are not a blue state. Not when it comes to gubernatorial elections. Of the last 36 years in this state, 24 have been a Republican governor. And those other 12 years, not one of the 3 Democrats was reelected. So when it comes to gubernatorial elections, this is a purple state that tints red. Democrats hate when I say that, it's the truth. The numbers don't lie. Last question. I always worry about the last question.
Yes, thank you for the
No,
opportunity.
always worry about that last question.
Yes, this is going to be a little difficult to ask.
Okay, so we're done, gang. I want to thank you. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Difficult for you or me?
Well, we'll see. My concern is when you mentioned that you believe in tax code reform, which is what Reagan did, who I voted for when I was a Republican.
Yep.
And who I actually believe had a lot to do with defunding healthcare services, created a lot of, I worked in Manhattan. I remember seeing all of a sudden a lot of homeless people. I went to college in New York State, so luckily I had the benefit of most of my university being funded by programs Reagan did with. So I'm concerned when you say that you're a CPA and you're about numbers and you forget about the
Sounds
human
like
factor.
I'm cold-hearted, right?
You're forgetting the human factor. And I see that when you point to Jersey City and to Newark, and you forget about those students who perhaps need the pre-K because their moms don't make $15 an hour, and those kids have no other place to go. So I doubt that I'll vote Republican, but I'd like to hear what you have to say.
It is a very, very fair question and point you're making. And the last thing I want to do is come across as cold-hearted. So as a
I'm sorry, I just forgot one point. Don't mean to interrupt you, but we're all concerned about property taxes when the young people who have not had the privilege that I did to have their higher education funded in the way that I did, because I was a minority. At the time, being here only 5 years, barely spoke English, but I was able to get to a good university in New York State. Those kids now, these kids now, my kids, millennials,
Yes.
young millennials, are coming out of college owing
Yes.
what it would cost to buy a house. $50,000, $7,000 a year. Yes. Which is why we have a drug epidemic. If you think about it, it's 20-year-olds to 30-year-olds who are suffering that. I see them in the hospital every day. I work at a hospital. So all of this ties in together, and it goes back to my original question that I believe you are forgetting the human factor, and that we are all in this together. This isn't about Hasbrouck Heights. This isn't about Englewood, where I live. This isn't about Jersey City, Newark. Maybe it is about Hoboken, though, because I think there are a bunch of billionaires there not paying their share of taxes, which the same thing that's happening on top. So I just like to hear what you have.
Very good, thank you. So this is where Rick will say to me, my campaign manager, when I said one more question, didn't I say just one more question? You had to take those last 2 questions? Listen, it's a fair point. I'm not denying, and you never heard me say, there aren't pockets of poverty in Jersey City, Newark, and Hoboken. Never said that. And I won't turn a cold shoulder to any community. Justin, are there not pockets of poverty even in Hasbrouck Heights?
Much more than people think.
Thank you.
Go to the food pantry on a Monday.
Yes.
And you'll see.
Yeah.
It's a hidden population that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
So it's a fallacy to believe that those people do not exist.
So my policies are not about saying, screw Jersey City, Newark, and Hoboken. I'm not saying that. I'm saying what we need is a fair, more equitable distribution of the current limited resources we have in the state to benefit everybody. Because this right here, state pre-K, I'm telling you, you got middle-class people in this town that are paying $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 a year to send their kids to pre-K, while their income taxes are being used for these folks to send their I would feel so much better about this if it was means tested. You get to send your kids to pre-K for free if your combined income in your household is under 100,000. Right? That's a fair policy. I'm for means testing. That's what I'm for. Listen, I'm not going to turn a cold shoulder and leave anyone out in the cold. But let me answer your question simply this way. I'm telling you we're on the brink, and we need a total reevaluation of how we're going to spend our resources. Because we exist in a time when our challenges are more than our resources. And that table right there, 5 or 6 of us can stand on it, and it'll stand. You put 20 of us on it, it's going down. And that's where we are today. That's where we are today. We need a reevaluation of how we spend our monies. But I promise you I'll be compassionate. As a Somerset County freeholder, Somerset County is the only county in the state that has a community mental health center paid for with county taxpayer dollars. Because we were experiencing a peak demand for mental health services that people couldn't get psychologists or psychiatrist appointments. And we don't need people driving their cars up on the sidewalks. We have a community mental health center. In Somerset County, 2 clinics for the working poor and the unemployed who don't have health insurance, providing health care. We have a department in Somerset County that takes care of veterans, because so many of them today are in dire straits. So believe me when I tell you, I won't turn a cold shoulder, but I will force a reevaluation of our limited resources. How better do we spend them? Because I need to tell you something. If we get to where Puerto Rico is, it's going to be worse then than it is now for everybody. And we owe it to ourselves to challenge ourselves. I want to give you a little example about the humanity and human nature, and then we're going to call it a night. When people go on unemployment, the data is empirical. 26 weeks of unemployment you get in this state if you lose your job. Do you know when most people find their job? Between weeks 23 and 26. Isn't that something? Now here's what some states have done. This is pretty unique, right? I just want to make the math simple. Let's say you're going to get $100 a week for 26 weeks. That's $2,600, right? Here's what some states have done. You want 26 checks for 100, or you want $1,000 now? Because guess what? If we give you $1,000 now, we probably saved ourselves in taxpayer dollars, about $1,600. Because guess what you're going to do? You're going to get on your horse, you're going to find a job. So, I know you're finding what I'm saying disagreeable, even maybe repulsive in some respects. But human nature is human nature is human nature. And government needs to find a way to challenge human nature in a way that's fair. Our American system only works if everyone's trying to carry their own weight. That doesn't mean we're not going to be there for our brother and sister. But here's my William and I always teach our 4 kids. You have 3 obligations as a citizen. And I'll leave you with this tonight. Vote, jury duty, and if at all possible, do not be a burden to your community. Don't be a burden to your community. And if we all went about our business that way, those that need us, the community would be there for you. But I got to tell you something. When a large block of citizens start to luxuriate in the benevolence of the community, the whole system's going down. And that's where we kind of are today. I mean, my parents' generation, if they had to go on unemployment or any type of assistance, they wouldn't tell you. And guess what? When the mortgage was paid off, they burned it. Today, people brag about the size of their mortgage. I got a $400,000 mortgage. Or they're not afraid to tell you, I'm on rent assistance, I'm on food stamps, I'm on unemployment. Right, Justin? We're there for each other, but let's get back. And these are not Republican principles. These were American ideals. American ideals. We need to get back there because we don't want to be Puerto Rico. I'm determined to make New Jersey a more affordable place to live, work, and retire, a more dynamic place to do business. And I want to change people's perception of New Jersey. 62% think we're heading in the wrong direction. 70% are looking to leave. I'm telling you we can turn this thing around. We can turn it around. And so for the next, I guess about 48 hours, I'm asking for your consideration. But then I'm asking for your vote. And if you believe in my candidacy, spread the good word. Spread the good word. And I thank you all for being here tonight.